Okay, imagine this, right? You're trying to teach your kid, like, hey, sharing is caring, but they're just having a total meltdown.
Oh, yeah.
Just clutching like their life depends on it. I mean, we've all been there, right? But what if the problem isn't actually the kid? What if it's us? What if it's how we're, I don't know, approaching the situation?
That's a really interesting way to look at it.
Yeah, and that's kind of the headspace we're going to be diving into today with Stephen Covey's The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People.
Classic.
We've got all the notes, we've got all the highlights right here, and we're going to be uncovering some pretty cool stuff about focusing on, your inner character to really lead a more fulfilling life. What do you think?
Well, I think Covey's work is so fascinating because it really does kind of flip the script on how we think about being effective.
Yeah.
Right? Like instead of just chasing all these external, tricks or these quick fixes, he's like, no. Let's go deeper.
Yeah.
Let's go to the root. Let's look at inner character and principles, Like think of it like building a house. If you want to make sure that house lasts, you got to have a strong foundation.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
Right. So that's what he's doing here.
It's like using the wrong map when you're trying to navigate a city.
Oh.
You can take all the shortcuts you want, but if that map's leading you in the wrong direction, you're just going to be lost and frustrated.
Exactly. And Covey actually, he calls those mental maps paradigms.
Okay. Yeah.
And he talks about these two main ones, the personality ethic and then the character ethic.
Okay.
And the personality ethic, it's all about those surface level techniques.
Right. What?
Like charisma, positive thinking.
Okay.
Communication tricks. And those might seem like the answer at first, but they often just mask the real issue.
Okay.
The character ethic is about aligning your actions with like your core principles.
Gotcha.
Integrity, honesty, fairness. It's that deep, lasting change from the inside out.
So it's not about just slapping a Band-Aid on it.
Exactly.
It's about actually, really going down to the root cause of the problem.
Yeah.
It's interesting. Covey uses this example with his own son.
Oh, really?
Who was struggling in school. And they tried like everything, every trick in the book to motivate him, to get him going.
Yeah.
But nothing was working. And it was only when they shifted their own paradigms about his potential that they actually started seeing real progress.
That says a lot about how our perceptions really shape our reality.
Right.
And I think that's what Covey's getting at here, that those shortcuts, they often try to bypass natural growth.
Yeah.
And whether that's, mastering a skill or relationships, or even raising a child, there's fundamental principles at play.
Right.
And we can't just ignore those.
Yeah, it really makes you think about the maps that you're using in your own life right now.
Mm-hmm.
Are they leading you where you want to go?
Big questions.
And that's where Covey's first habit comes in. Be proactive. It's about taking control, right?
Yeah, it's more than just taking initiative.
Right.
It's recognizing that you have power over your choices and your actions, no matter what's going on around you.
Okay.
So he talks about this concept of the circle of concern and the circle of influence.
Okay.
So we all have those things that we're concerned about, like,
right.
Economy, politics, things we can't really control.
Right.
Right. But the real magic happens when we shift our focus to our circle of influence, which are, our thoughts, our feelings, our actions.
Gotcha.
That's where our true power lies.
Right. So it's about shifting from I'll be happy when I have to I can be more.
Yeah. Love that. Yeah.
He uses this amazing example, the story of Joseph from the Old Testament.
Oh, yeah.
Sold into slavery, betrayed by his brothers.
Awful.
I mean, you'd think he'd just give up, right?
Yeah, totally.
But instead, he chose this proactive mindset. Mm-hmm. He focused on what he could control, his attitude, how he worked, his integrity.
Right.
And that's what ultimately led him to a position of power and influence.
It's such a powerful reminder that even when we face these really difficult challenges, we always have a choice in how we respond.
That's a good point.
Yeah. So thinking about your own life, what's one thing in your circle of influence that you could start working on today?
Ooh, I like that.
Right. What could create that positive change? And while proactivity is kind of like that foundation, to really make it work, you got to pair it with habit too.
Okay.
Which is get with the end in mind.
So that's all about having a clear vision, right?
It's about knowing where you want to go.
Okay.
And making sure that your actions are aligned with that vision. It's like having a roadmap for your life.
It's like a blueprint, right? You don't want to build a house without a plan.
Exactly. And that's what Covey's saying. He emphasizes that every creation happens twice. First in the mind, then in the physical world.
Oh, I like that.
So whether you're building a house, starting a business,
Right.
raising a family, the best approach is to consciously design that outcome
Before you even start.
before you even begin.
Okay.
Otherwise, you're just kind of, winging it and hoping for the best.
Right, and then you just end up somewhere you didn't really want to be.
Exactly.
It's interesting. Covey makes this distinction between leadership and management.
Mm-hmm.
He points out that, leadership sets the direction and management makes sure you get there efficiently.
Okay.
But he says, so often we get caught up in managing our lives, ticking off those to-do lists,
Oh, yeah.
that we kind of forget to lead ourselves
Yeah.
in a direction that really matters.
That's so true.
So how do we do that? How do we shift from management to leadership?
Well, one powerful tool that Covey recommends is creating a personal mission statement.
Oh.
And it's kind of like, think of it as your guiding document.
Hmm.
That captures your core values, your aspirations, what you want to be remembered for.
Right.
And it's not something you just whip up in 5 minutes,
All right.
This takes some deep thought, some real reflection.
Yeah.
So think about it. What would be the central themes of your personal mission statement?
Ooh, that's a good one.
Right. What values would be guiding your choices and your actions in life?
Okay, so once you got that vision, you got to put it into action, right?
Absolutely.
And that takes us to habit 3, put first things first.
This is where the rubber meets the road, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're moving from planning to actually doing.
Exactly. And it's all about effective self-management.
Okay.
And Covey, he introduces this really helpful framework, the time management matrix.
Okay.
And it basically divides our activities into these 4 quadrants.
Okay.
Urgent and important. Not urgent, but important.
Gotcha.
Urgent, but not important. And neither urgent nor important.
So, where do we even begin to tackle all of that?
It's a lot, right?
Yeah.
And Covey, he points out that most of us, we get stuck in that quadrant of urgent, but not important.
Really?
Yeah, we're just constantly reacting to demands, putting out fires.
Yeah, I see that.
Right. And sure, we got to handle those urgent and important things, quadrant.
Okay.
But the real key to effectiveness is in those important but not urgent activities, quadrant 2.
Gotcha.
And those are the things that contribute to our long-term goals,
Okay.
our mission, our values, but they often get pushed aside in the daily hustle.
Like what kind of things?
Well, think about things like planning,
Okay.
relationship building, personal development,
Mhm.
Preventive health care.
Yeah.
All those things that we know are good for us,
Right.
but we don't make time for them.
You're so busy putting out fires.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so Covey, he says, to really prioritize those quadrant 2 activities,
Yeah.
you've got to master this art of saying no to the good so you can say yes to the best.
I like.
Right. It's about aligning your choices with your principles, not just reacting to what's screaming the loudest.
He reminds me of that Pareto principle,
Yeah.
80% of our results come from 20% of our efforts.
Exactly.
So if we can just focus on those high impact activities,
Yeah.
we can really boost our effectiveness.
Totally. So think about it. What are some of your quadrant 2 activities that have been neglected?
Ooh.
Right. What could you start doing? Maybe it's delegating tasks, saying no to certain commitments,
Right.
maybe just blocking out time in your schedule
Okay.
for those important things. Now, the first 3 habits, they're all about personal effectiveness.
Yeah.
But habits 4, 5, and 6, they shift to building effective relationships.
Okay, how so?
Covey brilliantly uses this analogy of the emotional bank account.
Oh, yeah, I love that analogy.
It's so good, right?
Yeah.
And it really highlights just how important trust and mutual respect are in any relationship.
Yeah.
Just like a financial bank account,
Yeah.
You make deposits and withdrawals in your emotional bank accounts as well.
Right, through your interactions with others.
Exactly.
Okay.
So deposits are those acts of kindness, courtesy, keeping promises, listening empathetically,
Right.
really trying to understand the other person's perspective.
Gotcha.
And these actions, they build trust, they strengthen the bond.
Yeah.
But then you have withdrawals, which erode that trust.
Yeah. Like what?
Like disrespect, breaking promises, being judgmental, failing to listen.
Right.
And when those become a pattern, that emotional bank account gets overdrawn.
Yeah, and then.
And then you start to see conflict, defensiveness, communication breakdowns.
That makes sense.
Right. And Covey shares this really interesting example of a company
Okay.
that owned a shopping center.
Okay.
And initially they were all about, collecting the rent,
Right.
enforcing the rules.
Right.
And it created this tension with their tenants.
Okay.
But then they decided to change their approach, and they focused on building relationships with their tenants.
Okay.
They wanted to provide support, create a win-win environment.
Interesting.
And the results were, they were amazing.
Yeah.
You know, the tenants felt valued, they felt supported, and that led to increased trust, better communication,
Oh, wow.
and ultimately better business for everybody.
So it's really about shifting from like a transactional mindset to a more transformational one.
Exactly.
And that can really change your relationship
It can change everything.
and the outcomes that you experience.
Absolutely. So think about a key relationship in your own life.
Okay.
You know, what deposits could you make to strengthen that emotional bank account?
That's a good question.
Maybe it's spending more quality time together,
Yeah.
expressing appreciation, offering help, just listening with genuine empathy.
Right.
Those are all deposits.
Because building that strong emotional bank account, that's essential.
It is.
But it's really just the foundation for effective interdependence, right?
Exactly. And that's where habit 4 comes in. Think win-win.
Okay, so this is where you start to see that synergy.
Yes.
Right?
It's where that magic happens,
Yeah.
you know. But here's the thing. Most of us are conditioned to think in terms of win-lose.
Okay.
Like, if I get my way, you don't.
Right.
It's this constant competition.
Yeah, it's like a zero-sum game.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And Covey's saying, no, this is so limiting.
Okay.
It creates this scarcity mentality, like there's only so much to go around.
Yeah.
Someone always has to lose.
Right.
Think win-win is about abundance.
Okay.
It's the belief that there's enough for everyone to succeed,
I like that.
and that collaboration actually leads to better outcomes than competition.
So it's not about compromise,
No.
where each person gets like a little bit of what they want. It's
Right.
about finding a solution where everybody benefits.
Yes. Covey talks about these 6 paradigms of human interaction.
Okay.
Win-win, win-lose, lose-win, lose-lose-win, and then win-win or no deal.
Okay, break those down for me.
Okay, so win-lose, that's your classic my way or the highway.
Okay.
Often driven by ego, power dynamics.
Gotcha.
Then you got lose-win, which is kind of the flip side.
Okay.
You sacrifice your own needs to please others,
Right.
and that can lead to resentment.
Yeah, and feeling like you're not being true to yourself.
Exactly.
Okay, what about lose?
Lose-lose, that's a downward spiral.
Yeah.
Everyone loses, fueled by anger, revenge, just pure stubbornness.
Sounds pretty bad.
It can be. Then there's just win, which is more of an individualistic approach.
Okay.
No, it's just about getting what you want, regardless of the impact on others.
Gotcha.
And it might work in some situations.
Yeah.
But it doesn't really build strong, lasting relationships,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
Which are essential for long-term success.
So the most mature approach is win-win or no deal, right?
I think so.
What does that even mean?
It means that if you can't find a solution that truly benefits both parties,
Yeah.
you agree to walk away. And this preserves the relationship. It leaves the door open for future collaboration.
Okay, but that takes a lot of trust, right?
It does. It requires that strong emotional bank account we were talking about.
Gotcha.
But it's the ideal.
So think win-win. It's not just a technique. It's like a whole philosophy
Yes.
of interacting with others.
It really is.
Yeah.
And Covey says, you know, for it to really work, it takes certain character traits,
Like what?
like integrity,
Okay.
maturity,
Okay.
and what he calls the abundance mentality.
Okay. Break those down for me.
Okay, so integrity means that your actions align with your values.
Okay.
You're honest, you're trustworthy.
Gotcha.
Maturity is about finding that balance between courage and consideration,
Okay.
you know. Having the confidence to express your needs,
Right.
but also being sensitive to the needs of others.
Right.
And then the abundance mentality.
Yeah.
It's the belief that there's plenty out there for everyone,
Okay.
that one person's success doesn't take away from anyone else's.
It's not a pie that you have to divide up.
Exactly.
Okay.
So it's shifting from that scarcity mentality to a more abundant one,
I like that.
right? You start to see possibilities instead of limitations.
It's a real game changer, isn't it?
It is. It can transform how you approach everything, from negotiating agreements
Yeah.
to resolving conflicts to just living your life.
Right, with that generosity and that collaborative spirit.
Exactly. So the question is, how do we actually put this into practice?
Right. How do we move from theory to application?
Okay, well, Covey suggests starting with your relationships.
Okay.
Focus on building that emotional bank account.
Okay.
And then, when it comes to making agreements, shift your focus. from methods to results.
So instead of telling people how to do something, you focus on the desired outcome.
Yes.
And you give them the freedom to figure out how to get there.
Exactly.
That takes a lot of trust, though, doesn't it?
It does, and it takes clear communication.
Right.
So Covey outlines 5 key elements of win-win-win agreements.
Desired results,
Okay.
guidelines, resources, accountability, and consequences.
Okay.
By defining these up front, everyone's on the same page.
Right.
They know what's expected, what the responsibilities are, and what the rewards will be.
Yeah, it sounds much more collaborative
It is.
than just, top-down management.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And Covey also emphasizes the importance of aligning systems and reward structures
Wow.
to support win-win outcomes.
What does that mean?
So he gives this example of a manager who was really frustrated with one of his employees.
Okay.
Because the employee was just focused on individual achievement.
Okay.
It was all about him and not about the team.
Right, so classic win-lose behavior.
Exactly. But the manager realized that part of the problem was actually the company's system.
Okay.
Because the way they were set up, they were rewarding individual performance
Okay.
over team contributions.
Interesting.
So he restructured the compensation system.
How?
He linked a portion of the employee's bonus.
How well he collaborated with and supported his team members.
That's clever.
Yeah, right. So it incentivized win-win behavior.
So it's not just about changing individual behavior, it's about looking at the systems.
It's about the whole picture.
Yeah, and making sure that they're aligned with the outcomes that we want.
Exactly.
Okay, so think win-win lays the groundwork for collaboration.
Yes.
But you can't really have that true collaboration unless you master habit 5,
Right.
which is seek first to understand, then to be understood.
This is such a crucial habit.
Yeah,
It's all about empathetic communication.
right, which is like the foundation of trust
It is.
and genuine collaboration.
But here's the thing. We often fall short.
Yeah,
We all have our own biases,
Right.
assumptions, perspectives that cloud how we see and understand others.
it's so easy to get caught up in our own heads
Oh, totally.
and forget to really see things from another person's point of view.
Covey says that most of us, we listen with the intent to reply,
Oh, yeah.
not to understand.
That's so true.
We're already thinking about what we're going to say next.
Right.
Instead of trying to really grasp their perspective.
But it's like we're missing this opportunity
Totally.
to learn from them and connect with them because
Yeah.
we're so focused on getting our point across.
Exactly. And that kind of communication, it builds walls.
Yeah.
It creates defensiveness.
Okay, so what's the alternative?
Empathetic listening.
Okay.
It requires you to really put aside your own agenda
Okay.
and truly focus on understanding the other person's perspective.
With your heart as well as your head.
Exactly.
So how do you do that?
Well, Covey outlines these 4 levels of listening:
Okay.
ignoring, pretending, selective listening, and then empathetic listening.
Okay, so ignoring is pretty self-explanatory.
Yeah, we've all done that.
What about pretending?
Pretending is like you're nodding your head,
Right.
but your mind is somewhere else entirely.
Gotcha. Okay.
Selective listening is when you only hear what you want to hear.
Mhm.
Anything that challenges your beliefs, you just tune it out.
Right, we filter it out.
Exactly.
Okay.
And then there's empathetic listening, which is the highest form.
Okay.
It's when you genuinely seek to understand the other person's frame of reference
Okay.
without judgment or interruption.
It's like active listening.
It is. It's being fully present,
Yeah.
setting aside your ego,
Right.
and genuinely trying to connect.
So how do you actually become a more empathetic listener?
Well, Covey suggests a few techniques,
Okay.
like reflecting back what you've heard, paraphrasing to make sure you understand,
Yeah.
asking clarifying questions.
Right.
And he emphasizes that it's not about agreeing with the other person.
Right.
It's about making that sincere effort to understand their point of view.
Even if you don't share it.
Exactly. And once you've made that effort to understand,
Yeah.
then you can try to be understood.
Okay.
But even then, approach it with humility and respect.
Right.
Focus on sharing your perspective rather than trying to force it on them.
Which leads perfectly into habit 6.
Right.
Synergize.
It's all about the power of creative cooperation.
Okay.
Synergy is that principle that the whole is greater than the sum of its parts.
So like teamwork makes the dream work.
More than that, it's deeper than that.
Okay.
It's when people with different perspectives, different strengths come together.
Yeah.
And they create something truly innovative and impactful.
It's like 2 heads are better than 1, but on a whole other level.
Exactly. And Covey, he really highlights the importance of valuing those differences.
Okay.
He says that we often try to force uniformity,
Right.
Like everyone has to see things the same way.
Right.
But he's saying, no. Real synergy comes from embracing that diversity of thought.
Gotcha.
Because those different perspectives lead to richer, more creative solutions.
It's about seeing those differences as strengths, not weaknesses.
Absolutely. He
Yeah.
uses this really cool illustration of an optical illusion
Oh.
where you can see either a young woman or an old woman,
Okay.
depending on how you look at it.
Okay.
And he says, imagine two people are looking at this image
Yeah.
and each one sees something different.
Right.
They could argue forever about who's right.
Right.
But the real breakthrough comes when they recognize that both perspectives are valid
Okay.
and they try to see it from each other's point of view.
It's like that aha moment.
Exactly. And I think that's what happens so often in life.
Yeah.
We get stuck in our own way of seeing things.
Yeah.
And we don't even consider the possibility that other viewpoints might be valid.
We're not open to it.
Right. But when we are open to it, we
Yeah.
gain this much richer, more complete understanding of reality.
It's like expanding your horizons.
It is.
So how do you create that synergy?
Well, Covey says it requires trust and emotional maturity.
Okay.
You got to be secure enough in yourself to be open to other people's ideas,
Even if they challenge your own.
even if they make you uncomfortable.
Okay.
And then you need to be able to communicate your own perspective assertively
Right.
without getting defensive or aggressive.
It's that balance we were talking about.
Exactly, that balance between courage and consideration.
Gotcha.
And he suggests a few steps to fostering synergy,
Okay.
defining the problem or opportunity clearly,
Okay.
seeking to understand everyone's perspective,
Okay.
brainstorming ideas without judgment,
Okay.
and then working together to find that best solution,
Okay.
what he calls the third alternative.
So it's not about compromise or choosing one person's idea over another.
Right.
It's about creating something new and better.
It's about that creative collaboration.
Right. By incorporating like the best of everyone's thinking.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He gives this example of a couple
Okay.
trying to decide how to spend their summer vacation.
Okay. Classic problem.
Right.
Yeah.
The husband wants to go fishing and camping,
Okay.
in the mountains, secluded.
Gotcha.
And the wife wants to visit her mother, who lives in another state. Now, they could compromise
Right.
and just choose one or the other,
Yeah.
but that leaves one person disappointed.
Okay.
Or they could try to split the vacation,
Right.
but that might not be enough time to really enjoy either experience.
Okay. So what's the third alternative?
Well, they decide to brainstorm.
Okay.
They consider each other's needs and desires,
Okay.
and maybe they find a fishing and camping spot that's closer to the wife's mother.
Oh.
They can do both.
Gotcha.
Or maybe they could get some help with things at the beginning of the week,
Okay.
visit the mother, and still have time for their own vacation later on.
Right. That's a much better solution
Yeah.
than either of them originally came up with.
It's a win-win.
Yeah, it's a win-win that actually strengthens their relationship.
And that's the power of synergy.
Right.
You get those win-win outcomes
Yeah.
that strengthen relationships and unlock creative potential.
But it's not always easy, is it?
It's not. It takes a willingness to be vulnerable, to challenge your own assumptions,
Right.
and to really value what others bring to the table.
Right. It's a good reminder that effectiveness isn't just about like individual achievement.
It's
About those relationships, right?
It is.
It's about building strong, healthy relationships
It's about connection
with other people.
and collaboration.
Yeah. So how do we sustain that momentum?
That's a great question.
We've gone through these first 6 habits and they all kind of build on each other.
Yeah.
They create this upward spiral
Yep.
of growth and effectiveness.
Absolutely.
But how do you make them stick?
How do you make these habits last?
Right, for the long haul.
Yeah.
And that's where habit 7 comes in, sharpen the saw. What is that all about?
So this habit is all about self-renewal. Host. It's like taking the time to sharpen the blade of a saw
Okay.
so it can cut more effectively.
Okay.
If you don't invest in your own well-being,
Mm.
physically, mentally, spiritually, socially,
Right.
you're going to burn out.
Yeah.
You're going to become ineffective.
It's like trying to run a marathon without training or rest.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You might start off strong, but
Yeah, you're going to hit a wall.
exactly.
Yeah.
And Covey emphasizes that this isn't about,
Right.
self-indulgence or neglecting responsibilities.
Yeah.
It's about recognizing that you are your most valuable asset.
Okay. Yeah.
Taking care of yourself allows you to keep growing, to keep contributing, to live a fulfilling life.
So how do you actually sharpen the saw?
Well, he breaks it down into 4 dimensions:
Okay.
physical, spiritual, mental, and social emotional.
Okay, so physical, that's pretty straightforward, right?
Yeah, it's taking care of your body.
Exercise, nutrition.
Exactly. Stress management, sleep.
Okay, what about spiritual?
So spiritual renewal is about connecting with your core values,
Okay.
finding meaning and purpose in life,
Right.
nurturing your inner self, things like meditation,
Okay.
prayer, spending time in nature, whatever, helps you connect with something bigger than yourself.
Okay, that makes sense. What about mental?
So mental renewal is all about expanding your knowledge, sharpening your mind.
Okay.
So reading, learning new skills,
Yeah.
engaging in activities that challenge you intellectually.
Right, like doing a crossword puzzle or...
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or learning a new language, taking a class.
Right, right.
Anything that keeps your mind active and engaged.
Okay, and then social emotional, that's about relationships, right?
Yeah, it's about building strong relationships, contributing to your community,
Okay.
practicing empathy and compassion.
So it's really a holistic approach to self-care.
It is. It recognizes that all these aspects of our being are interconnected.
Right.
If you neglect one area,
Yeah,
it's going to impact the others.
that makes sense. So how much time should you dedicate to this?
Well, Covey suggests at least an hour a day.
An hour a day?
Yeah, to sharpen the saw, to invest in activities that nourish and revitalize you
Wow.
in all 4 dimensions.
So that could look like, I don't know, going for a run,
Yeah,
meditating, reading a book, having a good conversation with a loved one.
absolutely. All those things.
Okay.
It's about creating a rhythm in your life
Okay.
that balances productivity with self-care.
Right, because you can't pour from an empty cup.
Exactly.
You got to take care of yourself first.
You got to fill yourself up so you can give to others.
And this is an ongoing process, right?
It is. It's an upward spiral of continuous improvement.
Okay.
It's not about reaching a destination.
Right.
It's about embracing the journey of growth and learning.
I like that. So Covey's saying that the greatest investment you can make
Yeah.
is in yourself.
Is in yourself, absolutely.
Developing your character, nurturing your relationships,
Yeah.
living a life aligned with your values.
Beautifully said.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into the 7 habits of highly effective people.
Covey leaves us with one final challenge.
Okay, what's that?
He suggests that seeing others in terms of their potential rather than their limitations
Oh, okay.
can be incredibly transformative.
I like that. What do you think that looks like in practice?
Well, instead of offering criticism, maybe you offer encouragement.
Okay.
Maybe you believe in their abilities even when they doubt themselves.
You're right.
Or you create a space where they feel safe to grow and shine.
It's about empowering others
It is.
to be their best selves.
Exactly.
So the 7 habits are a journey, not a destination.
They are.
Start small, focus on one habit at a time,
One step at a time.
and watch the ripple effect of positive change in your life.
You'll be amazed by what you can achieve
Remember, true effectiveness begins from the inside out.
from the inside out.
As you invest in your character and your relationships, success in the outer world will naturally follow.
It's about continuous improvement.
Right. It's about taking care of yourself.
Yeah.
So you can better take care of everything else.
Exactly. If you don't take care of yourself,
Yeah.
you're not going to be much good to anyone else either.
Right. It's like that oxygen mask on the airplane analogy, right?
Right.
Exactly. You got to put your own mask on first
Yeah.
before you can help anyone else.
So Covey breaks down this renewal into 4 dimensions: physical, spiritual, mental, and social emotional. Physical is pretty straightforward, right?
Yeah, that's about taking care of your body,
Exercise, nutrition, sleep, all that good stuff.
stress management. Yeah, all those things.
Okay, what about spiritual renewal? What does that even mean?
Well, for Covey, it's about connecting with your core values,
Okay.
finding meaning and purpose in life,
Right.
nurturing your inner self.
Oh, okay. So that could look like, I don't know, meditation, prayer.
Yeah, spending time in nature.
Right. Connecting with something bigger than yourself.
Exactly. Whatever helps you feel grounded and centered.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
What about mental renewal?
So that's all about expanding your knowledge, keeping your mind sharp,
Okay.
reading, learning new skills, engaging in activities that challenge you intellectually.
So like doing a crossword puzzle?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Or learning a new language, taking a class, anything that keeps your mind active and engaged.
Okay. And then social emotional renewal, that's about relationships, right?
Yeah, building strong, healthy relationships, contributing to your community,
Right.
practicing empathy and compassion.
It's interesting how all these dimensions they overlap,
They do. They're all interconnected.
Yeah.
And that's what makes this habit so powerful.
You're right. Because you can't really be effective in one area of your life.
Right.
If you're neglecting the others.
Exactly. It's all about balance and integration.
So how do you find that balance? How much time should you dedicate to sharpening the saw?
Well, Covey suggests at least an hour a day.
An hour a day. Okay, so that could look like, I don't know, going for a run, meditating, reading a book.
Yeah, having a meaningful conversation with a loved one,
Right.
volunteering in your community, anything that nourishes and revitalizes you.
Okay, so it's about really being intentional about how you spend your time.
Absolutely. It's about making self-care a priority.
Because you can't pour from an empty cup.
Exactly. You got to fill yourself up first.
Right, so you can give to others.
And remember, this is an ongoing process.
Yeah.
You know, it's not about reaching some perfect state of being.
Right, it's a journey.
It's about continuous growth and improvement.
So Covey's really saying that the greatest investment you can make is in yourself.
That's right, in your own well-being.
Developing your character, nurturing your relationships, living a life aligned with your values.
Beautifully said.
As we wrap up our deep dive into the 7 habits of highly effective people.
I think Covey's work leaves us with this powerful message.
What's that?
That true effectiveness starts from the inside out.
From the inside out.
Yeah, it's about focusing on your character, on your principles,
Right.
on building those strong, healthy relationships.
And then those outward results will naturally follow.
Exactly. It's about becoming the best version of yourself so you can create the life you want.
I like that. So start with yourself. Focus on those habits one at a time.
One step at a time.
And watch as your life begins to transform.
It's an amazing journey.
Well, thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the 7 habits of highly effective people.
My pleasure.
We hope you found it insightful and inspiring. Until next time.